Today's daf, Be'ezras Hashem, is Masechta Avodah Zarah Daf Chof Test, number 29. And we will begin from Daf Chof Chesam at Beis, and it's going to start from Amar Rab Chanina. Again, we're discussing how to heal certain ailments, and are you allowed to do that on Shabbos? So it's about the last third of the page, where, here we go, the last third of the page, where it begins, Amar Rab Chanina, okay, Chav Chesam and Beis. Amar Rab Chanina, let me make it bigger a little bit, okay. Amar Rab Chanina said, Ma'alin oznayim b'Shabbos, you're allowed to raise your ears on Shabbos. Basically, what he's saying is that if you have a dislocated jaw on Shabbos, you're allowed to do what it takes to get it back into place. Taner Rav Yishmael Bar Yehuda, Rav Yishmael Bar Yehuda taught us, b'yad, you could only do it like a chiropractor with your hands. Avaloi b'sam, you're not allowed to use medicine to get it back into place. Hi, Alan, we just began. Chav Chesam and Beis. Rav Chanina taught us that if you have a dislocated jaw, you're allowed to put it back into place with your hand, but you're not allowed to use a medicine, because medicines, one is not permitted to take medicines on Shabbos. If it's not, it's a konos nefashos. Ika di amri, others say, bisam avaloi biyad, maitama mizra zarah. He says, rather take the medicine and don't put yourself back in place with your hands, because when you use your hands to straighten out a dislocated jaw, mizra zarah, you're going to cause a wound. You're going to cause yourself bleeding. It's a daraisa. Rather take medicine to get it back into place. Hi, Lewis. We just began. We're almost third down from about like 12 lines, 15 lines from the bottom of Chav Chesam Beis. Amar Rav Zutra Batuvia Amar Rav. Rav said like this: Ayin Shemorda. You have an eye that's popped out of its socket. So I don't know how this works, but muto lekoichel b'Shabbos. You're allowed to apply blue eyeshadow on it on Shabbos, which sort of will get the eye to sink back into place. Savamine. So they said, okay, using this medication ointment to put on your eye, you could do it on Shabbos, but only if they grinded the ingredients to make this ointment on Friday, then you could use it on Shabbos. Aval mishchak b'Shabbos. Let's say they grinded it on Shabbos, so they over an Issur D'Oraisa to make the medicine, and they carried it on Shabbos through a Rishus Harabim to bring it to the person whose eye popped out. Lloyd, that would not be permitted, because you're mechal Shabbos, and you're not allowed to do that. So the Gemara thought that when the eye pops out of its socket, it's not a dangerous situation. There was one rabbi who spoke up, and his name was Rav Yaakov. I got an explanation from Rav Yehuda that went so far, and said, even if you grinded the medication on Shabbos, in other words, you mechal Shabbos to make the medication, and you brought the medication through a Rishus Harabim, so then mutter, you're allowed to use it. And so, because I guess, I don't know, if an eye pops out of its socket, that's a very dangerous situation. Rav Yehuda shara lemikal eina b'Shabbos, and Rav Yehuda allowed people to put that ointment on your eye on Shabbos when the eye popped out. Hamalei Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda. Rav Shmuel, the son of Yehuda, said, Man sayis Yehuda meichel Shabbos. Whoever is going to listen to Yehuda, this Rav Yehuda, and do that on Shabbos is being mechal Shabbos, because he held that it's not a dangerous situation. L'soif, and the way God works things is that if you speak against somebody, you end up needing that person. L'soif chosh be'enei. Rabbi Shmuel Bar Yehuda had the same problem. His eye popped out of its socket on Shabbos. Shalach lei, so he sent to Rabbi Yehuda, Shareya Asa, can I put the medication on Shabbos or not? Shalach lei, so Rabbi Yehuda said, L'kuli alma, for the rest of the world, Share. And for the rest of the world, it's permitted. Lididach, but you who made fun of me because I was mater, aser, it's going to be aser. Because v'chimididihu, did I make it up that a person is allowed to put an ointment on Shabbos? The Mar Shmuel, it's our master Shmuel taught me this thing. Because ahi amsa the have be Mar Shmuel. There was this maid, a Jewish maid, that worked in the house of Shmuel. The katchele eine b'shabta, her eye blew up on Shabbos. I guess if it's safka, she started screaming in pain. Nobody paid attention to her because she's dumb. They thought if you're in pain on Shabbos, you have to push through it. Don't take medication. The end of was Pakaina, the eye popped out, and it was too late to do anything. Lamacha, Nafak Marshmuel, Vidarish Marshmuel made a speech and said, Ayin Shemarda. If an eye is about to pop out of its socket, you're allowed to put this ointment on to settle the eye back in its place. My Tama. So the Gemara says a fascinating thing, which we know true today. The shuraina, the eina, the tendons of the eyes, but va'ansa the libetali. It's connected to the valves of the heart. So if you have a problem with your eye, it's sort of an indication that a person has a problem with their heart. And that's like high blood pressure. It somehow infects the vision, and the blood vessels in the circulation of the eye closely mirror what goes on in the heart. Now, kagoin mai, what is an indication that you have a problem with your eye that you could be mechal Shabbos? Amar Rav Yehuda says kagoin rira, if there's running, I guess, pus coming out of your eye, bitza, if you feel stinging in your eye, dama, if you see blood coming out of your eye, demasa, if you're over tearing, the kitcha, you have inflammation, uschilas uchla, or the beginning of an infection. Lapuke, but the soif uchla, the end of an infection, that's not a problem because that's not so dangerous anymore because it's healing. Let's say somebody had to open the eye. Rashi says he opened the eye because he wants to put the ointment on so he can see better. So that's not a dangerous situation. Says the Gemara, Amar Rav Yehuda said, Zibura, if someone has a hornet sting, udecharza silva, or a thorn prick, visimto, or an abscess, udekaiv le'ino, or he has pains in his eyes, va'asi, now the Gemara is telling if you have all this, right, any one of these things, these ailments, va'asi lava ishtay, and you start sitting in a bathhouse, in a hot bath, kula b'nei sakanta, you are playing around with danger, because it's you shouldn't go into a bathhouse because after you get a hornet's bite, you're supposed to be in cold, not in hot. The Gemara is going to say that in a minute. Chama l'chama. If your person has a fever, and you should take radishes. Radishes are good for a fever. Visilka, beets, is litzina if someone is like shivering cold. The chilufa, but if you switch it around, you eat the radishes when you're cold and the beets when you're hot, then sakanta, that's dangerous. Chamima la kraba, it's good to go into hot water when you get a scorpion bite. Ukriri, you go into take a cold bath. Lizibura, if you get a hornet's sting. Vichilufa sakanta, but if you do the opposite, it's dangerous. Chamima lesilva, you take hot water for a thorn prick. Ukriri, you take cold stuff. We go on to Chavtes and Aleph. Lechaspenisa, for a face wound. Vichilufa sakanta. But if you do the opposite, it's a sakana. Chala, let's say lisibure. Let's say you're bloodlet. You should take chala. Chala is vinegar. Uminine l'tanisa. If you have like an extended fast, so the best way to break the fast is not on a Danish, but umunine. You should have, Rashi says, sardines, like dogim tanim, small fish. Vichilufa sakanta. But the opposite is dangerous. Now, the Gemara says, sakura sakanta. Koyev einoi, if you have eye pain, visibure, I'm not sibure. We just had that before in your bloodlet. Sakanta. So if you have eye pain and your bloodlet, that's dangerous. Sheni ledog Sheni ledam, dam. The second day after eating fish, then you could bloodlet. Not right away after you eat fish, but you should wait 2 days after you eat fish to bloodlet. Sheni ledam, but 2 days after you bloodlet, dog, you can eat fish. Shlishi, loy, but if you eat after you bloodlet, 3 days go by and then you eat fish, sekanta, that's dangerous. Tanarabanim, again, they used to do a lot of bloodletting. Hamak is dam, if someone bloodlets, loyokel chagbash, don't eat these following foods because it's dangerous. So if you bloodlet, don't eat loy cholov, milk, loy gvina and cheese, loy bitzalim, onions, loy shachalayim, or cress. Im achal, but if you did eat, Amar Abaya said, Nesa riviyasa dechala or riviyasa dechamra. Abaya said, if you did eat these things, so now what do? So you should take, as an antidote, you should take a quarter of a cup of vinegar, mix it with a quarter cup of wine, vinar bin vivu, mix it up, and drink it. And somehow that's going to settle the stomach, but it's going to cause the excrement that comes out of you to have a very bad stench. The Gemara says, mifna, when you relieve yourself, only relieve yourself to the east of the city because the eastern wind is not so strong. Because you have a stench. And that's going to, if you have a strong wind, if you have a wind, it's going to blow it into the city. And that's not good. So you should, relieve yourself on the east of the city where it's not going to bring the stench into the city. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yeshua Malevi says, Malin unkali b'Shabbos. You're allowed to raise up the unkali if it folded in, this unkali in Shabbos. My unkali, what is this unkali that folded up? Amar Ababa istumumcha de liba. It's a lobe of the heart. So Rashi says, it's a tnuch shneged halev. It's a lobe that's next to the heart, opposite the heart, shekar nibla, and sometimes it folds on the inside, and it makes breathing difficult. So you're allowed to, undo that fold on Shabbos. Maya susa, what should you do to heal yourself? Maise, you bring kamane, cumin, karavaya, caraway, vininya, mint, Vangadona, and I think I have it written here, wormwood, and what with sisrei, and I don't know, setzrei, ba'avdasa, and hyssop. Okay? Now, the Gemara says like this, Lil liba, so you take these ingredients, that will help you, malin leinkuli b'Shabbos, that will help you unfold that lobe that's by the heart. So, but if it's a heart issue, b'chamra, make sure you drink it with wine. V'simonach, remember that, yayin samach lavamenish. For the heart, you use the wine. L'rucha, if it has something to do with breathing, b'maya, mix it with water. V'simonach, v'ruach lakim rechefes al pnei hamayim. The Spirit of God hovered over the water. L'kuda, if you're dealing with somebody who is a woman that just gave birth, and now she's freezing. B'shichra, mix those ingredients with beer. V'simonach, and the simon would be v'chada al shichma. Her pitcher, her jug, was on her shoulder. Shichma is very similar to the name of shichra, with at least two of the letters. So l'chuda, kada is l'chuda. Says the Gemara, Rav Acha b'derei derava shachik le l'kula b'had. So apparently, these are the ingredients. These are the ingredients, and it depends on the ailment. You'll add another either wine, water, or beer. Depends on the ailment that you have. Says the Gemara, he would grind all these ingredients and make one pile out of it. And he would take a fistful, and then mix it with the liquid that we discussed. And drink it. He wouldn't grind it all together, but he would grind each one separately, and he would take a pinch of each one and I guess put it into the liquid and drink it. Anyway, does these ingredients work to heal these ailments? Amar Papa said, I tried all these methods and it didn't work for me. I went to this Arab, and they seem to know these things, and they said, you're doing it wrong. Isa kuza chadata, bring a brand new jug, umalye mayim, fill it up with water, urumei be tarvada dedusha, and I guess place it in a ladle of honey that is the talale be kove, that is suspended in front of the stars. In other words, place it in a ladle at night. Ulamocher, let it stay there overnight. Ulamocher ishti, and tomorrow drink it. And says the Gemara, Aved Hachi, I did followed his direction, Vitasai, and I got healed. Says the Gemara, Tanur Rabbanim, the rabbis taught. Now the rabbis are going to tell you what are the if someone is generically sick, what are the best foods to eat? What are the superfoods? So Shisha Dvar Merapin Es HaChoyle Mecholya. There are 6 superfoods that can heal a person when he's sick. Rufas and Rafua, and their healing is a truthful healing. It's not like temporary. Ve'eluhein, kruv, cabbage, usradin, beets, umeisisin, and water which was dried in chamomile, in which you have dried chamomile, was soaked. The kevas, and the stomach of contents of an animal, the heres, and the womb of an animal, the yaseres hakaved, and the lobe of the liver. These are the healthiest superfoods, okay? The yesh oimen, another superfood, which is true, afdag and kitanim is like sardines. Small fish is a superfood. It makes your, I guess, mafrim marbin, it rejuvenates your cells in your body, your entire body. It's not just a superfood that can heal you, but actually makes you stronger. Says the Gemara, Asara Devarim Machzirin Esachayli Lecholya. If your person was sick and then he got healed, there are 10 things not to eat, because if you can eat it, it's going to make you go back to your sickness. Lecholya kosher. It's going to be worse now than it was before. Eluhain, the following: ha'oichel b'sar shar, if you eat ox meat; shuman, if you eat fats; b'sar tzli, roasted meat; b'sar tziparim, bird meat; u'beitzat tzluya, roasted eggs; v'shachlayim, and cress; v'tiglachas, if you take a haircut; u'merchatz, and you go to a hot bath; v'gvina, cheese; v'kaved, and liver. All these things, if you just got healed from something, you should avoid these foods until you're totally healthy. V'yeshoim afa goizim. And some say even walnuts. Cucumbers are not so healthy right after you gets you just got healed. Tana be Rabbi Shmuel, lama nikra shmain kishuin. Why do we call it cucumbers? For some reason, it's so difficult for the body, like swords. So ends the Gemara regarding health and refuahs. Now we said like this: the Mishnah said that one is not allowed to take a haircut from a goy. Tana Rabbanim, Yisrael Amastapim Magoy. If you are going to take a haircut from a goy, Roya B'mara, make sure there's a mirror there so he doesn't damage you. The goy Amastapim Yisrael. If the Jewish barber is giving a haircut to a goy, Kevan Shegia Liber, when he comes to his like ponytail that he grew for the Avodah Zarah, don't touch it, because that is like he's going to cut that for the Avodah Zarah, and you don't want to help him with that. Amamar, we learned before. Yisrael hamistapeh migoy. If a Jew is taking a haircut from a goy, roya b'mara, you look in the mirror. Says the Gemara, hey chidami, why do you have to look in a mirror when you're taking a haircut from a goy? If it's in the Rishus Harabim, if you're in the public domain, let's say you're on Central Avenue taking a haircut from a guy, Lama Limara, why do you have to have a mirror there? He's not going to kill you because everybody sees him. If he's doing it in his private home, Kiroya Mahavas, big deal that you're going to have a mirror there, he still could kill you. And says the Gemara, it's in his private home, you're taking a haircut. But since you're asking for a mirror, kivan the ikamara, since you're looking for a mirror, you look like an important person, and then he'll be afraid to harm you because he knows that you might be well connected, so he's not going to harm you. Says the Gemara, Rav Chana bar Bizna have a mistapa magoy. Rav Chana bar Bizna took a haircut from a guy b'shvile de Nardar on the streets of Nardar, probably not a public domain, but a private street. Amalei, so the barber said to Rav Chana, Chana yoi kayach lezuga. Your neck looks so good for my scissors. In other words, he was telling Rav Chana that, I feel like killing you. Amar, so Rav Chana, who was scared, said tastily, I deserve this. The Avdei Rav Meir, I violated what Rav Meir said. We learned in our Mishnah, Rav Meir said, never take a haircut from a guy. Says the Gemara about the Rabbanan lo Avid, he wasn't violating what the Rabbanan said? The Amir Rabbanan. When did Rabbanan say that you're allowed to take a haircut from a guy? B'rshus Rabban, b'rshus Yachin mi Amar. In a private domain, even the Rabbanan say, don't go take a haircut from a guy. And he went to the streets of Nardai to take a haircut from a guy. So he violated not only the opinion of Rav Meir, but he violated the opinion of Rabbanan. So why did he say, I violated only the opinion of Rav Meir? Who Sava, Rav Chana held, Shvili de Nandok, even the Shchiki Rabin, Krishus Rabin Dami. On the side streets of Nardai, it was crowded. It was a crowded city. So since many people pass through that private street, it's considered like a Rishus Rabbim. So only because I violated the words of Rav Meir by taking a haircut from a guy, that's why I got threatened with my life. Says the Gemara, when he reaches the ponytail of the guy, you should remove your hand. The kama, how much should you not leave here? Don't touch the ponytail. And Amarav Malkiya with a hay. Amarav Adabar Haba Shloisha es boys lechol ruach beruach. You have to leave over 3 fingers from each direction of that ponytail. Leave it. Don't touch it. Don't give him the haircut there. Let somebody else do it, because that's almost like a service for the Avodah Zarah. Now the Gemara, we have this Gemara many times before, so we're going to just run through it. Amrav Chanina bar Reika, Shapud, Shafachas, V'Gumos. The following 3 halachas, remember it's Rav Malkiyu said it without the hay. Belurius, Eif Mikla, Gvina, Rav Malkiya. The Rav Malkiya said it. He's the one with the hay. Amar Apap, because Malkiyu and Malkiya were similar names and people confused it. So he gave you a way to remember it. Says the Gemara, Amar Apapa, Masnis or Masnita. If he's commenting on a Mishnah or Brisa, then you know it's Rav Malkiya with the hay. Shmaitza, if he's saying something on his own, then it's Rav Malkiyu, then it's Malkiyu. V'simanach Masnita Malkasa. The way to remember it is the Mishnah is a queen, because it's very hard to argue from Mishnah. So that's when you remember Malka, which is the hay, is commenting on the Mishnah and the Brisa. My Benai, what's the difference between Rav Papa's Simon and Rav Chanina ben Rav Ika's Simon? Benai Shvachas. It has to do with the Shvachas. According to one, Malkiyu said it, and according to the other, it was Malkiyav that said it. New Mishnah, we go to Mishnah on Chavtes Amid Beis. Eilu Dvarim Shel Goyim Isurim, the Isurim Isahana. The following things are from Goyim, and a Jew is not allowed to benefit from it. Hayayim, regular wine. The guy brings you out a glass of wine. Not only you can't drink it, but you can't have benefit from it. And Shel Goyim Shemitchilas Yayin. If the guy offers you up vinegar and you knew that prior to it being vinegar, it was wine, so you're also not allowed to benefit from it. The herkeres haderioni, not only wine, but the Romans used to have like a piece of pottery that if you mix it with water, turned into wine. They somehow had a certain technology, because they went through a lot of wars, and it's very hard to carry bottles of wine to war. That was a health food. So they would carry these like powdered versions, these pottery that you can add water to it, and all of a sudden it becomes wine. So therefore, that is a din like yayin nesach, and it's asur bahana. And then the Mishnah says, let's say you buy a hide from the store, a hide of an animal, and you notice there's where the heart was of this animal, there's a hole there. So then you can assume that this animal was used as a sacrifice for Avodah Zarah, and the way they used to do it was to pull the heart out for the Avodah Zarah while the animal was still alive. Somehow they would cut the hide. So then you knew, don't benefit from such a hide. Shimon ben Gamliel, Shimon says you have to look at the hide. You're right. If it has a circular type of rip in the hide, usher, then that hide is usher because you knew that animal was used as a sacrifice for Avodah Zarah. Mashach, but if it's just one slit, mutter, then it's mutter. It wasn't an animal used for Avodah Zarah. Basar, meat. A goy shechted an animal. So if a goy shechts an animal, you're not allowed to eat it, but you could benefit from the animal. But hanichnas l'Avodah Zarah, the goy brings it into let's say, the house of worship. He brings it into his temple. So then, mutter, right? You should know that it's mutter. Prior to him going into the house of Avodah Zarah, it's mutter bahanoah. You're allowed to benefit from it because he didn't use it, he didn't offer it up to his Avodah Zarah. But if you see him coming out of the church and he's carrying this meat, also you're not allowed to have it for Avodah Zarah. You're not allowed to benefit from it. That's like an offering to Avodah Zarah, and it has a din of a mace. It's tamei and it's metama ba'oil like a mace. Divrei Rabbi Akiva. So says Rabbi Akiva. So it's not only an animal they would slaughter in front of the Avodah Zarah. Sometimes they slaughtered a regular animal at home to eat, and then they decided, you know what, this meat looks so good, I'm going to bring it into my Avodah Zarah. So as long as he didn't bring it into his Avodah Zarah and offer it to his Avodah Zarah, you can benefit from it. But if you see him come out with that meat from the house of the Avodah Zarah, you're not allowed to benefit. If you see him go to his Avodah Zarah, also you're not allowed to do business with him, because if he's successful in buying something from you, he's right away going to go into his house of worship and thank his God. If it's after services and everybody's coming home, then mutarin, you could do business, because even if he's successful, he's not going to turn around and go back into his temple. Noidois hagoyim, you have a picture of a goy that he used to hold wine. Vikankaneim and their jug. Now the goy washed it out, right? Now there's no goyish wine in that jug. But yayin shel Yisrael kanos behem, and now a Jewish wine is inside of it. A Jew put his wine in there. Asurim, then the Jewish wine becomes asur. V'isurin isarna, it becomes an asur bahana. Why? Because the goyish wine, which is swallowed into the walls of this jug, will come out and infect the Jewish wine. Divrei Reb Meir, and so therefore it's yayin nesach mixed with Jewish wine, and therefore it's min ben minoi, so it's always asur. Divrei Meir. The Chachamim says ain't isurin isarna. It's not an isarna. It's only you can't drink the Jewish wine, but you could benefit from it. Says the Mishnah, hachatzanim, peels, v'hazagin, pits and peels. Shel goyim. Let's say they squeezed out grapes and they made wine, but now you have the pits and peels that was once belonging to the goyim, and so therefore, if they made wine from those grapes, now you have the pits and peels. Asurin, you're not allowed to even benefit. You're not allowed to eat those pits and peels. The Isurin Isra Noah, and you're not allowed to benefit from it. Divrei Meir, because probably there's some yayin nesach in those pits and peels. The Chachamim lachim, if the pits and peels still have moisture to it, asurim, because then the pits and peels have the yayin nesach on it. Yavation, let's say they're dried out pits and peels. Let's say you dried them out for 12 months, mutarim, then you can enjoy those pits and peels, because the yayin nesach probably is dried out, and all you have is just plain pits and peels. Hamurayas. Hamurayas was a type of fish sauce that they used to add wine to take away the bad smell of that fish sauce. So that's Aser and Isra Hana. Ugvinas ben Unyanki shall goyim, and cheese from the city of Unyanki of goyim, the Asurin Isra Hana. The Isra is Isra Hana, you're not allowed to benefit from it. Divrei Meir, because they used to make these cheeses from the waste that was inside the stomach of an animal. Let's say you have a baby cow that was nursing, right? And when you slaughter it and kill it, you'll find in its stomach little milk. That milk is like a excrement of the animal, but if the milk in the stomach can be used as an enzyme to make cheese. And since Unkiyayi was a place that most of the little baby calves were offered in an Avodah Zarah, so the cheese was made using the ingredients from an Avodah Zarah animal. Divrei Rameir. So says Rameir. The Chachamim says, Ein Yisurin Isar Hana. The Isser is not an Isar Hana. Another 2 minutes, and then we'll stop. Amar Rabbi Yehuda said, Shal Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yeshua K'shay Mehalchem Adech. Rabbi Shmuel had a conversation with Rabbi Yeshua when they were walking on the road. Amar Loi, Rabbi Shmuel asked Rabbi Yeshua, why is it that the cheese of Goyim is asur? And even today, cheese of Goyim, it could be the most kosher cheese. And they're probably not using any unkosher ingredients. We don't buy cheese without a hechsher. Why not? So Rabbi Yeshua answered to Rabbi Shmuel, because the way they make the cheese is they use of a non-slaughtered animal, they use the milk in the stomach of the animal, and they use that as the enzyme to make the cheese. That's how Rabbi Yeshua explained it to Rabbi Shmuel. So Rabbi Shmuel doesn't like that because that stuff that's in the stomach is not fleishiks. It's nothing. It's like the waste. It's like the urine of the animal. Let's say you slaughter an animal and there's urine there in the animal that didn't come out yet. Of course, that's not the usser. That's not the part of the meat of the animal. And so that's why Rabbi Shmuel didn't like that idea. The cheese, the stomach of an oila is more stricter than the stomach of an avela. Amru koyin shadati yafa sarfa chayav loy haydoloi. Avol amru ein hen of loy ma'alen. A koyin that brings a koyin carbon oila, and then a carbon oila belongs totally on the mizbeach. But the koyin decides to rip open the carbon oila, and he sees the milk in the stomach of the animal. If he doesn't mind, he could drink it, and no problem, because that's not fleishik. It's not the meat that belongs on the mizbeach. So we see that part of the animal is not part of the meat of the animal. So the question is, what's the problem with the cheese that they make? If they're using the inside, the milk that's in the stomach of the animal, to use that as to make the cheese, that shouldn't be a problem. No, because it's worse. They use the calves of Avodah Zarah. So even the milk inside the Avodah Zarah animal is part of the Avodah Zarah piece, and therefore if you use that milk to make the cheese, so then that would be the problem. So Amarloi, so if that's the case, Rabbi Shmuel asked Rabbi Yeshua, in Kain Yasruhu Ba'ana. Why didn't they asur Ba'ana? Why didn't they say any cheese that you see, any tray for cheese, you're not allowed to benefit from? And the halacha was you're not allowed to eat it, but you're allowed to benefit from it. So the Gemara says he changed the conversation. Rabbi Yeshua changed the conversation. He didn't want to explain to him what the real reason is why cheese is asur. So let's leave that as a secret. You'll get the secret in the Gemara. Amalai Yishmael, he said to Yishmael, Heich ata koire. How do you read the pasuk? He moved him to another carpet. Does it say your friendship is better than wine? Do you read it doidecha or kitayvim doidayach? Or your friendship, it's the Knesset Yisrael's, it's the Jewish people's friendship to God, or God's friendship to the Jewish people? Amalai kitayvim doidayach. You read it that the Jewish people's friendship to God. Amalai, Rabbi Yeshua said, no, Eina Dava came. We're talking to God, and Shira and we're talking to God. We're saying that that the smell of your oil is so good. So obviously we're talking about God, and the Jewish people are saying, that's how you read it, and that's how we have it imprinted in Shira that your friendship is better than wine. Half a minute here just to finish off the piece. We just said in the Mishnah that Yayin Nesach is Asur Bahana. How do you know? Yayin Menolan, Amar Rabahu, Amar Kra, Ashachela Zuchema Yachela Yushti Yain Nesicha. Ma Zebach Asabana, Af Yain Nami Asabana. Just like a korban to Avodah Zarah is Asabahana, so also the wine of a goy that was poured for Avodah Zarah is also Asabahana. Zebach Gufa Menolim. How do you know the korban that you bring for a korban to an Avodah Zarah is Asar Bahana? They yiksiv, and this is this week's parsha. Vaytzam de lebal pa'ar vayachli zivchei mesim. Tilim describes that the Jews did the Baal Pa'ar and they ate the dead, the things that were slaughtered to the dead. Ma meis Asar Bahana, just like a dead body is Asar Bahana. Av zevach, if you slaughter to an Avodah Zarah, nami Asar Bahana. Now the Gemara asks, meis kufa min alam. How do you know a dead body is Asar Bahana? As Yisham Sham Egla Rufa, I have a Gzeir Shava to Egla Rufa. Ksiv Hachav Tamashem Miriam. It says that Miriam died. It says the word Sham. Ksiv Hasam Arfu Sham as Egla Banachal. It says by Egla Rufa the word Sham. Malahalan Asar, just like an Egla Rufa is Asar Bahana, Afkan Nami Asar Bahana, so also a dead body is Asar Bahana. And if a dead body is Asar Bahana, slaughtering to a dead body, slaughtering to Avodah Zarah, which is Zivchei Mesim, is Asar Bahana. Hence, yain is asabana. Final question is, how do you know an egla rufa is asabana? Answers the Gemara. The Torah uses the word kapara, so to describe being the egla rufa, so it has a din of kachim that it becomes asar bahana. Okay.